Welcome to the Ecomminsiders podcast. My name is Debbie, and this event is being sponsored by SPCTEK. Today's topic is your Google business profile, the Amazon seller's new secret weapon. My guest is Norm Farrar, also known as the Beard Guy. And, he is a podcast host, so I'm going to talk to him a little bit about podcasts before we get into the business Google stuff. He is a podcast host for Lunch with Norm. He is a visionary entrepreneur who just provides online marketing. He's managed e-com solutions for brands. He's worked with many Fortune 500 companies such as Coca-Cola, Mercedes-Benz, Microsoft, 20th Century Fox since the early 1990s. I'm not trying to date you here, Norm, but Norm has focused on helping entrepreneurs optimize their operations and unlock their full business potential. Presently, he hosts the very popular e-com podcast Lunch with Norm and co-hosts the Marketing Misfits. So welcome. Very nice to have you.
And nice to be here.
Yeah, so I want you to kind of walk us through that journey of becoming a podcast host. How do you go all of a sudden one day from doing and then just become a podcast host?
COVID. When COVID was here, I had my three boys back. I was absolutely afraid of being in front of a camera, going on stage, anything like that. I would shake. It was bad. So me being in front of the camera was not my cup of tea. But one day we were on just on the balcony and we were having a cigar. My three sons and I smoke cigars. So we were having a cigar and a call came in and I answered and I said, I can point you in the right direction. I know a guy. 15 minutes later, it happened again. Almost the exact same words came out. And 15 minutes after that, so in a period of 45 minutes, I connected three people. So my one son said, you should start a podcast. You have a huge network out there. Maybe, you could do that. And I said, there's absolutely no way you would get me in front of a camera ever. And a couple of weeks later, it turned out that I started this podcast that is now defunct, unfortunately, because it was my favorite, called I Know This Guy, where I was just working with really cool people, like the real Donnie Brasco. I got him on the show, the guy that brought down the mob. And I had like real just cool entrepreneurs, sports guys. And we always talked about their background, their successes due to their failures. And then they would always refer me to somebody. So at the end of every podcast, I asked them if they knew a guy, or a gal. And then that kind of led to Lunch with Norm. So I thought, okay, maybe I could do this, give some Amazon advice, although I was really having fun with the other one. So that started off, and my one son, decided that he could be the podcast producer. So he went out, we researched all the real equipment and what would make a good podcast, and we jumped into it, and we were doing it 3 times a week. We're at episode 650-ish right now. And it's exactly like running a business. We had to find out, the competition. We did competitive analysis. We had to see if we could fund it, because a podcast is pretty expensive to run if you want to market it properly. And even just keeping on the people, we had a social media person, we had an editor, we had my son. And then we had to kind of put out a business plan, just trying to figure out, hey, is this going to be okay or not? And then we took it from there. And when we did it, we had to make sure that we had all the right equipment. So that I shot myself in the foot a few times. But at the end of the day, we have 2 podcast studios. We've got the equipment set up and we're ready to go.
Well, so you talked a little bit about some of the challenges and stuff. What's been some of your biggest rewards along the way?
Oh, well, working with my son. So that is definitely, we have this very unique, he actually calls me by my first name, always Dad when he's at home, but on the podcast, he had to get around that.
Yeah.
and he kind of felt weird calling me Norm, but like seeing him grow and do his thing. But the other rewards would be, first of all, being able to do this. Like 5, 6 years ago, I could even do this. I could have a meeting, but if I went into a sales meeting, because most of my life was doing that, I could do that. But I could never talk to a group of people. I even canceled my sister-in-law wanted me to be their MC, and I couldn't do it. I just said I can't talk in front of people. So this has been a big reward. The other thing that happens too, I don't like I have services, I have different companies that I own, but I don't promote them on the show. And even though I don't promote them, I still get the requests. So it is some form of lead gen, but I'm going to back up one. The best form of lead gen by far for me has been the newsletter from the podcast. So there's a Lunch with Norm newsletter,
Yeah.
and we put that out, and we had to always find that USP. So with Lunch with Norm, there's the Wheel of Kelsey. So everybody tunes in. You can see the audience engagement increase at the end. But with Lunch with Norm, it was all my personal stories, which have been kind of weird. And what I do at the end is I put a business spin on them. You know, how could you learn from, me falling off a train bridge, me being confronted by this motorcycle gang, all sorts of stupid, really dumb stories that have really happened.
Well, you
People have
said you're
liked
in
it.
Austin, right?
No, I go to Austin. My business partner is in Austin.
Okay. All
So
right.
I'm
Because I
always
was going
down
to
in
say, if you're in
Austin.
Austin, you want to keep it weird.
Oh, absolutely. Me and my part. That's why we call it the Marketing Misfits on the other podcast. But that's important. Like with a podcast, you have to have a USP or you'll never stand out. You'll just be another one of the million podcasts that are out there.
Yeah, because I mean, there's people getting into them every day. What
Yeah.
strategies are you actually using to grow your audience and reach new listeners?
Well, sponsorship helps because what we try to do is when we get sponsors, we take that and invest that money. And it could be in, so for example, this week, I'm a firm believer in like, you don't have to do everything yourself, but I'd like to do whatever I can. If I'm an expert in it or I can hire somebody smarter in the company, yeah, let's give it a shot. But there's things that you can't always do yourself. So what I try to do is I hire people, and I can hire contractors, but for YouTube, my partner's Kevin King. He lives in Austin, and we decided that, hey, look, we're not just going to do a podcast. We're really going to try to grow this thing. So we went to Podcast Movement, learned a lot. Then he went to Mr. Beast's VidCon, and he learned a lot about YouTube. But we want to make sure that we really are getting the most out of,
Mm.
especially YouTube. We always launch with a video, and then the podcast comes out a week later, which we found was the correct way to do it. But I hired a guy that used to be the YouTube channel manager for Warner Brothers, and there was like some really great companies he worked with, all Fortune 5 or entertainment companies. So I hired him and I said, look, what do we have to do? How do I grow my company? So he came back, he gave us a ton of pointers on just how to get going. Like that intro is so important, the titles, the thumbnail is so important, and then just different marketing strategies, podcast swaps. That's important. Getting into the right directories, going out and just like on Facebook, making sure you're targeting the right demographic. Do you
Mhm.
have the right demographic? So we had to go back and we had to look at, what is really our avatar? Is it Amazon sellers? Is it e-com sellers? And then drill down even further. Are we going after, men, women? Are they new sellers, intermediate sellers? And once we figured that out, then we could target the guests. And what we found was, especially Lunch with Norm, we were too wide, we were too
Yeah.
broad. Uh, but the biggest way to grow your podcast is a community. And we have 4 ways to access our community. So you have the podcast live or on Facebook a week later. Uh, sorry, on YouTube. So it's YouTube, then the podcast, then we have the groups. So the groups are WhatsApp, which is a very engaged group. We have Facebook groups, and then we have our newsletter, which we're getting open rates of 49 to 63% and click-through rates of around 7 to 10% on average, which is
And this is
extremely
all
high.
on ecom? Is this on ecom?
Uh, this is more Amazon. So Lunch with
Okay.
Norm is Amazon Marketing Misfits, which is a newer podcast. That's strictly, marketing, digital marketing.
Okay. All right. Well, what advice would you give to somebody who is interested in starting their own podcast? Where do you
Re-
start?
Research. So first, competitive analysis. You got to know the market you're getting into. The second thing is you better know the equipment. I burned through 10,000 bucks easy on the wrong equipment, and just not getting, like, I can have a camera. The camera I'm using right here, this isn't my podcast studio, this is my office, but my podcast studio has to have a camera that I can control and I could work with. It's in 4K, but it's a 4K camera. How do you get it to stream 4K? That's a whole new thing I had to learn. So I had to get this thing called an eCam, and that plugs into this USB hub. You have something. I've got one here. It's a Stream Deck. So if I need to cut from camera to camera, I've got 3 cameras. I can do that. The one camera is controlled by my Apple phone, not my iPhone. The lighting. So I've got, it's so important. I have a film background, so I have the ring light. I've got 2 backlights, and then I have the floodlights if I need them, like the pot lights, if I need to have extra lighting on me. But then you have to have the sound tiles. I mean, there's so much you have to know. Then if you're on location, that's a whole other story. Now you
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
have, these lavalier, I think that's what it is, mics. So I've got
yeah.
these Sennheiser mics, I got these Rode Go mics, and then how do they tie into your camera? It. My friend, now that I have Kelsey, that's my son, who knows a lot of this. My friends have actually hired him to set up their podcast studios because he knows all of this now. And he just
Yeah.
goes and he sets up these different podcasts, which is great for him. So, yeah, you have to understand the equipment is probably the most important. And when you're doing a podcast, what's most important? The sound. If you
Yeah.
think you're going to just go and buy a $50 mic, that's crazy. Like a good mic. This is a Yeti mic here, and then I've got a Shure mic in my podcast studio. It's important. The arm, the way that they're pointed. So that's first thing. The second thing is outreach. How are you going to get guests on? How are you going to go and reach out to them? A lot of people are reaching out, and if you're new, people right now, like, am I going to go on to somebody that gets 50 views? Maybe you start with 50 views and you try to work your way up, but how do you get in, or how do you get guests that are massive in the industry that'll get you business? How do you get the guests to promote your podcast if you're a smaller podcast? Like,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of, and then your angle, your USP. So with Lunch with Norm, we have a unique USP. We also have luckily my son's a professional musician. So this is the other son, and he wrote all the music. So we have our music that starts off the show. We have an animation, very short. We have 3 spots for sponsors. At the end, we have the Lunch with Norm music and the fade out. But we also have that Wheel of Kelsey, and that's another piece of music. And people love that. We get so many comments that they love that animation for the Wheel of Kelsey, and then actually participating in the Wheel of Kelsey. So that's our USP for that podcast. If you don't have a USP, you'll never stand out. So
Let me just say thank you, Norm, because one thing that's very apparent is how excited you are about actually being the podcast. So I'm trying to picture what this guy looked like, 3, 4 years ago, who was like, "You'll never get me in front of a camera,"
Right.
to all of a sudden being like, "Oh, you got to have this and you got to have that and you got to do this." I love it. I love it. So I'm going to get down to the meat and potatoes of what we want to talk about today for my audience, because my audience is primarily Amazon sellers. And you're telling us that the Google profile can actually enhance Amazon sellers. So, talk a little bit about how Amazon sellers leverage a Google business profile to enhance their visibility outside of Amazon.
So I talked about this at Traffic and Conversion last year. And this is to e-com sellers, digital marketers, and Amazon sellers. And I asked when I was doing my presentation, how many people in the audience are using Google Business Profile? Around 4 people out of the hundreds were doing it. And I thought, yep, that's about right. The stats for Google Profile is that bricks and mortar businesses, 4% are using it. For brands, because most people don't think brands can use Google Business Profile, it's 0.01%. This is the best secret weapon on the marketplace, and it's free. Either you learn it or you hire somebody that can do this. And there's people all over that can do it, but do it well, that's another story. Um, so, Google Business Profile. It did used to be that you could only come in if you were a bricks and mortar store. They've changed it as of last year. When you go and you try to get verified, they'll ask you if you're an online brand or a retail store. There's one other thing they'll ask, and then you have to verify. Well, it was very tough to verify before. You'd have to wait forever to get verified. During COVID, it looked like the best solution was just to call in and get verification, but that time, a lot of the times, it would fail. But now you've got everything from phone in, uh, a email, a video, a phone call, and the postcard that comes back. I
Oh,
still
yeah.
recommend the postcard. If you get a choice, do not take the video. The video is the hardest. So the
Okay.
video, you'll have to pull out your articles of incorporation. You'll have to go outside and show that you have a something on your car. I mean, it's crazy some of the things they ask you to do. So stay away from that. But once you get verified, now you get to do so many things. First of all, it'll ask you for a description. Well, ChatGPT's around. Go in,
Ah,
find out what best describes your business. Use keywords. You're allowed to put in keywords. It's not a big deal. You can put in a short description. You could put in a long description. It, Google Business Profile, it's like, Excel, right? Most people know how to use the like formulas. They'll
yeah.
use the average, the either the sum or the average, or they don't get into pivot tables. They don't get into all this other stuff. And that's with Google Business Profile as well, because when you get into the profile, you can get into the profile, you can get into reviews. So it likes reviews. It likes tracking your messages. So we took this one company, and this company, this was the bike company, and they launched from 0 to 117,000 new leads from Google Business Profile. We were able to track from either a phone call or a click through to their site, which they would never have before. Because one of the things with Google Business Profile, you have to be number one in that category to be seen. So if somebody types in dog chews or natural bully sticks, odorless bully sticks, you have to be number one. You can't be number two and see that. So now you get this piece of real estate that on a cell phone, you might have 4 or 5 swipes before you get to your competitor. 4 or 5 full pages. And then we've all seen it on Chrome or on Google where you type it in and that whole right side becomes you. And it also is beneficial not only because of the real estate that you get, but also because of what's called a clickless search. So I'll give you a real example. We were doing a Damascus chef's knife. And this is a high-end, high-quality chef knife for a company we were doing some business with. And all of a sudden, they started being ranked #1 for Damascus chef knife, Damascus sushi knife, and also chef knife, 8-inch chef knife, just a bunch of different things because uh, Google found it relevant in the articles we were writing that these should be clickless phrases. I mean, those are just a couple of reasons why you should be looking at Google Business Profile. But now you can go a lot deeper. You can start putting in your photos. Now you beyond your product photos, just photos of whatever you're doing, your influencers photos, as long as you have the ability to share that, they're allowing you to share that, no problem. So all that UCG, you can put the information in, change the file name, even the metadata if you'd like, and I always recommend doing that, and then uploading it. And then if you upload it in your Google Business Profile, it gets indexed immediately. And that's the same with blog articles, and that's the same with social media. And let me go back. The first thing you're going to be asked is, what is the URL that you want this to be pointed to? So that's called your anchor URL. So if you're on Amazon, you could use your shop, or you could use your website if you're driving business over to Amazon, or it could be just a listing. I wouldn't recommend that. It would either be your storefront. It could be anything. But get this. When you upload, when there's an area there that says products, you can upload your products, which turns into your brand. Let's say that Damascus knife. So you can upload your Damascus knife with all the other photos for it, just like what's on your Amazon listing. Then you could do your paring knife, your bread knife, and you could put your whole listing there. And soon as you hit submit, you have a link that goes over to Amazon. Okay, so you do put that link in. And as soon as you click it, it becomes a shoppable link. So it could be shoppable on Google. Then, what about if you're on Walmart? You could take the same images or I like to change them up, but now you've got a Walmart link. Now you've got your Shopify link. Now you've got links to wherever you want to send them. So even though you have that anchor URL in your product side, you can send this traffic anywhere you want.
I love that.
That's the killer that I don't think really anybody really thinks about. So not just over and supporting your Amazon. And by the way, I know for Walmart loves, or Google loves Walmart. Google loves Walmart listings. And if you have something on Walmart, you'll more likely than not see it on Google before an Amazon listing, unless you're promoting that Amazon listing.
That's probably because of how much money Walmart may spend on Google Ads.
Probably, yeah, I don't know the reason, but. And then one other thing that people don't think about, this is just down a different rabbit hole, but how many people are building backlinks to their Amazon account? If you're not building backlinks to your Amazon listing, you're missing out, because it's like any website. The more quality backlinks that you have, the better chances of it to get ranked on Google.
Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah.
ranked number one on Google, guess what happens? The
Yeah.
Google
People
business
can find
profile.
you. Exactly. People can find you. So I'm thinking, especially on a Google business profile, if you have a physical storefront, but you're also selling e-com, what an impact that could make on your local SEO.
That's why it was set up. That's
Yeah.
Google created this for, so it started out back in the day as Google Plus. Then it went to Google My Business. Then it went to Google
I
Business
remember that.
Profile. And I think I'm missing one of them in there. I think there was four, but it was all to build a social network and social or SEO, local SEO. And so that's where the map comes in. You're going to be asked about where you're located. If you're a brand and you don't want to add that, you have to add, and this is important. If you do not add a real address, you'll be denied. You have
Okay.
to add an address without a PO. It could be your home address. But all you need to do is when you get verified, is just click uncheck the address box, and then it won't be shown, and then your map won't be shown. So that's
Okay.
very important. Uh,
Okay.
so that, and the other thing about the Google Business Profile is you upload your brand. Okay, so all your pictures are there. Then you can go and you have you'll just see it as updates. So the first thing is would be post. So if you're on Facebook or wherever, you have to put in. You start off with your anchor URL. So you put your anchor URL in, whatever you use for Google Business Profile. Then you can start. So soon as you do that and you can start writing your post, the Google URL will just disappear. So it will immediately click. It will immediately be indexed and put back to your Google Business Profile the second that it's loaded. So it'll give it credit. Or what you can do is you can do the same post in your Google Business Profile under update, and then you can
Mm.
update it and it'll give you a special link, and then that'll be the link that you can hand out or give to people or publish. And
Yeah.
that'll give you a bit of extra juice as well. But as long as you're using that anchor URL, then you're good. If you're doing it inside of Google Business Profile, you're already using that anchor URL. So the next part, and I use this, it's so important, is events. Events could be anything. It could be a new product launching, that's event. It could be a website, it could be a new hire, it could be whatever it is, but that could be an event. A podcast is an event. So every podcast we do, guess where we publish it? Google Business Profile
Google
under
business
events.
profile.
So
Yeah.
now the reason why we do that is the event gets weighted higher than anything else. So if we have an event next Wednesday, a podcast next Wednesday, we put it out there, we put the keywords associated with that event in there, and then when anybody types in Amazon FBA or whatever it is, the podcast shows up first. So then people can tune into it, register for it. That's really important for anything from if you're doing a webinar or if you're doing uh, just if you're at an event, anything that is a little bit different or that could drive traffic. It doesn't mean that you have to be having an event. It's just that a
Right.
product launch is an event.
Right.
So
Yeah.
these are a few things that
So
you can do.
I guess from what you're saying, I'm seeing here that there's a big, huge part of this Google business profile that is actually building your brand credibility and some trust as an Amazon seller if it's taking you to Amazon product, right?
Yeah. And the other thing you want to do, which is going to help your Amazon product, uh, but it also builds your credibility, is creating press releases, good press releases. So
Okay. All right.
here's the system that I have. I can tell you 99% of the people out there are not doing this. I don't have the exact figure, but everybody I talk to, there's only 1 out of 100 that are even
Yeah.
thinking about this. So what you're doing is if you have a website, so we're all micro brands. I don't care what anybody says. Anybody who's not an established brand out there, like a household name, we're all micro brands. So when somebody comes to my listing, the first thing that they're going to do is they don't know me. They're going to go to Google and they're going to see if they can see anything bad about the product, or they're going to look at my social media and my website. That's the first thing. If there's the slightest thing that doesn't add up, and that could be even with your brand, if something's blue and red, blue and red, blue and red, then all of a sudden it's yellow and orange. That's kind of weird. Or if the fonts, or if something just doesn't look right, they can click off because they don't trust you. It's just as soon as you give them a reason to click off, they will. That's including your website. So I always try to take a look at how I'm presenting myself on Amazon. How do I want to present myself? What does my brand look like on even a simple one-page website, and your social media? So if I'm using colors and fonts for my website, for my Amazon account, I want to make sure my social media is that way. So going back to this really cool little hack is I want to go and I want to create a blog article. Okay, a really good 1,500, 2,500 word blog article that I know I can extend every quarter. Google gives you extra weight when you go back and you add even 100 words to an article. So maybe you start
Okay.
at 1,500, and then every quarter or every 6 months, you go back and you upload a bit more, revise it. So now this could be, and I've used this a few times. So let's say that you want to uh, talk about 5 reasons how um, organic bully sticks benefit elderly dogs. Okay, that's the name of it. And you make this long 1,500 word article, and you do it in the format that Google wants. Very educational, not promotional.
Mm-hmm.
Then once it's published, maybe a week after, you go and you create a press release. Now, a press release has to be newsworthy. You put your keywords up front. So it could be organic bully sticks, or um, just trying to I'm just trying to figure out what I could say. So, organic bully sticks uh, found to be
That,
beneficial to elderly dogs, something like that. That's not a great example, but it's got everything in there. And then you link the article back to the to your press release to your article. Then, if you wanted to, very easily now, you could do a video about the article that you just written, and you can put it on YouTube and embed that in your press release. And then with a proper press release, you have all your contact information, your logo, all your social media, the website that it's going to, images, everything you want. And now when you have a proper press release company, you hit the button and the syndication goes out to like probably 400 plus really good quality media outlets. Now you're being seen as the authority. And if you wanted to
yes.
go one step further, you can take that content and do the exact same thing and syndicate it. Nobody does that. Nobody syndicates their blog articles. So
Um,
there's 2 ways to get all of a sudden every link that you just talked about, or you're putting into, like, let's say these bully sticks are on Amazon. You've got one link in that the body of the press release. Guess where it's going? It's going back to your Amazon listing, and you're not getting. These are mostly no follow links, but it's getting these the authority of 400 news
yeah.
agencies. Now, when you click on your micro brand, you're starting to see press releases. You're starting to see all this newsworthy information about you as the authority, and you've got the. So I'll give you an example. I was on Helium 10's Elite back a couple of years ago. So I was asked, "Oh, give us an example." So the day before, I put out a press release. And it was bully sticks, by the way. So I put out bully stick press release. That next day, live during the podcast, I did a search on how many times I was mentioned in Google. It was 400 and some odd times, ranked on Google already. The title, which is the most important part, it mixes up the title. I was 179 mixes, like just phrases, and some of them were just horrible, but some of them were pretty good. Number one page, 131 were on page one, ranked number one. Okay, ranked number one. So Bully Sticks is very competitive, and one of
Yeah.
the phrases was, I think it was Amazon Bully Sticks, Amazon Bully Sticks launched, and so they were not bad phrases. But what was even better is then I took the phrases that I was using. I went, okay, now this will blow your mind. Type the phrase in. The first page, number one, because we were in Chewy. So it was Chewy, Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. There was the carousel of photos, all 100% us. And then it went down the full first page. And some of the questions were, well, these, like the bottom part wasn't for you. And I said, sure it was. Look at, these were influencers that were talking about us. And so it was influencers and it was press releases. Then went, okay, page two. Every spot except two it was us. And we had the Google business profile.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just starting to see how this really is building. Talk a little bit about how they can use the Google Business Profile Q&As in
Well,
addition to blogging and stuff.
yeah. So the Q and A's, it's just like the Amazon Q and A's. If you're not using the Q and A's, you're missing out. Now, I wouldn't recommend you as a seller going out and putting out the Q and
Right.
A's, but
Asking
your
your
next
own
door neighbor
question.
can.
Yes.
So nobody, it's not a big deal.
Right.
But I would be researching, and I would even take your top three competitors, see what they're talking about, see what their Q and A's are, put it into a chat GPT, see what Q&As it comes up with the best keywords, and then start writing them out. And you can even get chat GPT to write out the questions. And it could also be that some of the answers or some of the questions could be direct about your competition. So in Amazon, you're not allowed to run down your competition or talk about
Right.
in your reviews, but in your questions, that's absolutely not against TOS. So somebody can ask you the difference between this company and this company compared to yours, and now all of a sudden you've got the juice coming back from your competitors. So
Yeah.
I think that's important. Now you can do that over on Google Business Profile, where you're just continuing to ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, and then you do have a review link. So in your profile, when
Yeah.
you go in, so you've got a profile that has about 10 to 12 icons going across the top, and then it shows you exactly how it looks. So if you go into your profile and you do any revisions, it automatically changes the right side. If you go and check your reviews, it'll show your reviews on the right side. So it's live, it's up to date as you add to it. So in your reviews, you can get a link. And one of the things that I do is I can just put that into my signature of the emails that I send out. Um, Google Profile loves using Google tools. So if you're using Google Profile and you're putting out slides about your brand or about that anchor link, it's being rated at the same time. It will be promoted. But this is one thing that I learned from a Google specialist. Uh, they told me, well, are you putting any information either to your new posts or to your reviews or something, some link in your Gmail? Seemed like no. Well, start doing that because your Gmails are actually going to be indexed.
Yes.
So they're not going to index what's in your email, but they're going to index that link. And if people start putting new reviews in because they see that that's your link, that's going to be a bonus for you. And it's probably as important to have a bunch of reviews on your Google business profile as it is on your Amazon site. So it's pretty important.
So can Amazon sellers then use their Google profile to directly link the Amazon store?
Yep.
How do they do that?
Simple. So I would probably, if I was an Amazon seller, I would probably either have a website that has my products um, that go directly back. So some people feel that they can't be too aesthetically pleasing on Amazon, that
Oh,
there's a certain level that they can achieve, but with their own, they have the freedom to create their own look and feel of a website. Maybe it's better for them to have the website um, and then have the products the way that they want to lay it out. Now it's better because you do have an Amazon store now. You don't have to just drive it back to the link. But one of the areas that you can send the link to. So like I mentioned, you can take your anchor URL. That could be over to your Shopify store, and or it could just be your link. Like it's going to ask you, what's your link when you put up a picture? Well, this picture of Damascus knife is going over to my D2C store. Oh, here's another picture that's going over to my Shopify store. So you can take those and you can and it's going to be indexed. So when people see it, like buy Damascus knife, they'll see images of all your products if they get ranked, and it's a shoppable link. It's a shoppable link. So it's so cool that you can do that. And
yeah.
the other thing you can do is, let's say you want to promote, so building value. Everybody knows how important it is for us to get followers now. You know,
Yes.
we within Amazon, one of the best ways, easiest ways on your storefront is you've got the follow button. Put a big red arrow pointing down to, follow me, and click, run campaigns, run a Facebook campaign that will get followers to come over and click your button, gain the follower, and also get that anchor text. That so you're getting indexed as soon as you do this. So it's important that you just drive traffic over to, it could be Facebook, it could be anything, to that follow button. And then people click the follow button, and now you're getting notifications. You're building your list. So any repeat customer, 20% of your highest customers, highest order value customers, 20% of your all of your repeat customers, but 20% of your highest value customers. There's four criteria, and they all get notifications if you are doing a promo of some sort. If you're putting out your Amazon posts, this all helps build up that traffic. Now, I'm not saying this has anything to do with Google Business Profile, but this is building engagement on your Amazon store, the more followers you get.
Yes.
So, and just one other rabbit hole, if you're a brand and you're trying to build followers, another good way to do this is through Amazon Live or through their influencers.
I should have just called this whole thing Hacks by Norm.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't even count all the different hacks that you've given to us already, Norm. This is just fantastic. So there are obviously benefits to adding any product photos that you have, because like you said, you can link them back link them to Shopify, Walmart, eBay, Amazon, wherever you're selling them at, Etsy and stuff like that. And videos that you can put on your business profile. Is there a limit to how many photos and videos and stuff like that you can
Not
do
at
on a
all.
profile?
And that's the beauty of it. So I would not go overboard after you get it first set up.
Yeah.
Some of the things Google would consider spam is if you're just killing the system with putting 20 images every day.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
wouldn't do that. I would limit it to 5 a week, maybe. Once it's set up, and then
Yeah. Let it get some time to build.
yeah. And let's say that you go to a trade show or you're at an event, or, let's say that the Humane Society is doing something and I just gave away a whole bunch of bully sticks. Take pictures and put this is where you are, and then it'll show you that you're at Fort Lauderdale Humane Society. By the way, going back to the press releases, if you can go in and you know that you're selling in hot states, right, or hot cities, you can go and in the press release, if you know that uh, Vero Beach, I don't even know if that's a real, I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Uh, yeah, Vero Beach is a real beach, and this is a popular spot outside of Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so and it's under 350,000 people. Well, all I have to do is take that title that I had in the press release, and I forget what it was about elderly dogs,
Right.
newsworthy, put in Vero Beach, and the next day you will be, for the most part, in number one position, ranked number one anywhere in Vero Beach.
So yeah, it's helping your local SEO as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is really good, I think, sometimes for Amazon sellers to boost some of their conversion and stuff is to be tied to some of those local places.
Yeah, I don't think enough people uh, I think a lot of people they do a press release and they go to a really cheap, crappy press release company and they, pay $20 and they expect to get massive results.
Mm,
So there's two different types, there's really three different types of press releases. But the social media press release is where it goes to a lot of social media websites and content providers. The traditional press release where it goes out not only to those social media outlets, but it also goes out to periodicals and magazines. And this is, if you think about the true old press releases, and they usually have a lot more outlets that they'll send out
yeah.
to. So 5,000 outlets rather than 4 or 500. But the difference in price is anywhere from 100 to 300 to 750 to 3,000.
Okay.
What I've recommended to my customers or my clients is that they continually, at least once a month, more than once a month, if you can afford it, do the lower end press release. And just make sure that the distribution company, you're not paying, if you're paying under $100, it's probably a really crappy distribution company going
Mm,
out to small town USA and not any of the main, like the CNNs, the Foxes of the
right,
world.
right.
They're going out to crappy satellites. Um, but once a quarter, if you can, or once every 6 months, spend the 750 or 1500 or more and get that really high quality news release. And the reason for it is you're going to see it. It's not going to go away. It's going to be there. Like the one I did a couple of years ago for Helium 10 was, I think, in 22, and they were seeing press releases that I did in 2016 on page one.
Wow.
That's a lot of juice for a little bit of money, and that's national. And so if they do that, that would be the best thing to do. Go with a better quality distribution or syndication company.
And I would say this as well. I know I've talked to some people who actually have like uh, services that are affiliate services that, you can actually pick, like you said, your, starter, premium, or pro
Yep.
type package for the press release and stuff like that. But I mean, you can see ahead of time exactly who they release to and stuff like that so that you have a good idea. I mean, in the case of the bully sticks, let's just say that you might not need it to go to CNN, right? But you might want it to go to, oh, the big dog show, or the big dog magazines or
Yeah.
that type of stuff. So you can pick, which ones you want to really kind of focus in on, just what you're trying to achieve. So, okay, the key to all of this is verifying and claiming that Google Business Profile. Talk to us about what you would need to have in order to do the verification process.
I forgot one. I gave you four. The fifth one is actually just putting a code on your website, and that's instant verification. So all you would need to do is to sign into your account. If you don't know how to do that, if you have Workspace or if you have a domain like a Google domain, you can just go into your Gmail. You'll see 9 icons top right, and you click that. And you'll see your calendar and your Google Drive. One
Mhm.
of them is going to say business. It's going to be a little house, and it's going to say, I think it's business or profile. I don't have it here, but it'll be a little blue house. You click on it,
Yes.
it's profile. And then it'll go over, it'll say business.google.com, and it'll say sign in. So you'll sign in, and if it goes into it right away, you'll know you have it set up. If not, it's going to come in, it's going to sign in and says you're going to have to verify or claim your business. So then you put in your information, and then it's going to say to claim your business, uh, give you the options. So it changed, that part changes quite a bit. It During COVID, it gave you an option. After it gave you 5 options. Now it could be mixing up the options. Please do not take video. That seems
Okay.
like it'll be the quickest. Don't do it. It's a pain in the butt. If you have a coder or if you have a website developer, or if you know a little bit, I mean, just a little bit about any type of like WordPress or where your website is, all you have to do is insert a little bit of code in
Okay.
the header, and it'll verify it right away, and then you're off to the races. The worst time wise is probably getting um, a postcard where you just come back and you enter the code. An email, all they'll do is they'll send you an email and then you're verified. With phone, it it used to be very, very simple. It got more complicated over COVID because I guess there was a shortage, but
Yeah.
now it should have gone back where it should be. And I haven't tried it recently, but that should be back to normal where it's very quick. But the quickest is verify the code in the header of
Okay.
your page.
All
And
right.
then you're off.
So
Then you start. Then you're going to
to
log
wrap
in.
up this conversation, I want you to tell every Amazon seller why it is important for them to keep their Google business profile updated with their latest business information and promotions and all of that type of stuff. Why is it important? What's it going to help them?
Well, the first thing is that if you're doing your description and you're updating your description there, once you get a really good description, you might as well do it right across everything. So if in your brand story, maybe
Mm.
it's in Amazon, maybe all your social networks, but do it everywhere. You don't want to be inconsistent, and you're going to spend a bit more time here. Why is it important? Is people are going to look, and if they see that you haven't done anything since 2010, they're going to think that you're out of date or out of business. Plus, you're always wanting to look like you're getting indexed on a regular basis. Google's coming back. They're seeing that you're updating. Consistency with Google, regardless if it's regardless of updating a piece of content on your website, consistency is everything. If you're putting out 3 photos a week or 1 photo a week, then continue doing it. You can increase it, but you have to make sure that you stay consistent. And it's quality as well. Promotion is not necessarily a great thing. If you're providing, like going back to the post, add
Oh,
value. So with bully sticks, the benefits of having, or what you could do for an elderly dog, or health benefits, or 5 ways, and I'm just using 5 ways, but it doesn't have to have
yeah.
anything to do with a bully stick. It's to maintain the health of your dog. How many vet, you know, how many times a year it should go to your vet. Uh, just making sure that there's value, and then you could throw in, that post about a promotion that you're doing. Now, the I didn't mention this, but Google Business Profile, under update, you've got the posts, you've got the events, and you have offer. So you can create an offer during Black Friday to drive people over to your Amazon listing during Black Friday, or you can create an event about a promotion that you're doing during Black Friday. And remember what I said, the events always get weighted more than anything else. So you can drive people back. And now we're, in Black Friday, but one of the things that I always like doing pre Black Friday is creating that pre Black Friday offer, because your sales lull, and then
Yeah.
everybody's waiting for, the date. Well, why not do it a little earlier, take a few more points off, and, offer it then. And you can do that easily with Google Business Profile.
Well, you've certainly seen a lot of retailers do that this year.
Oh
From the
yeah.
time October Prime dates hit, I don't think we haven't had a Black Friday sale date in the calendar. It was like when that Prime date hit, there were so many retailers, brick and mortar, who kind of followed that lead. And now it's just like the Black Friday deals are crazy out there. So it does pay to get your message out a little bit early and stuff like that. I think that the things that you've shared with us today, Norm, are so incredible. I really think your next podcast is just going to be called Hacks. I want to really thank you for joining us today on Ecom Insiders. This has been sponsored by SPCTEK, of course. Our guest speaker today, Norm Farrar, and or known as the beard guy. Okay. If you do have questions, leave them below in the comment fields. Do you have a website, Norm?
Yeah, I don't really have a web. You know what's funny? I've been doing this since 1995, and I don't have a website. It's kind of my marketing strategy. I don't have a marketing website for my services. So they can get me by, it's all word of mouth. But
Okay.
what they can do is, if they want to tune in to Lunch with Norm on Wednesdays, or Marketing Misfits, that's great. But what I really like would be, if you want to have some entertainment, check out our newsletter at LWN, that's Lunch with Norm .news, and
Okay.
subscribe if you like it. That would be, I think you'll have a lot of fun just reading that newsletter every Monday.
Okay. Well, if you enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to our future editions of Ecom Insiders and be sure to like this one. Thank you again, Norm. I really appreciate all your thoughts. My head's spinning.
Well, thanks for having me on.
All right.